Hey Patreons, it's time for the quick take match review from the Copa del Rey first leg against Real Madrid in the semifinals. And this is a 1-1 result that was probably fair for both sides. And I'm not going to go chronological through the match. Let's just talk about certain players and certain themes throughout the game. Let's start, though, in the first half. Nelson Semedo, who was quieter in the second, had a fantastic first half, taking advantage of the space with his physicality, his speed, and doing a really, really good job to battle Vinicius Jr. and not allow him to have as many chances as he could. Obviously, we've talked many times throughout the season that the pace along the back line and even in the midfield at times with Busquets and Rakitic is not in Barcelona's favor. So a guy like that, an 18-year-old who has speed to burn, was going to be a force to be reckoned with, and Valverde got it 100% right by starting Semedo, who had probably the best shirt he's had in a Blaugrana, or at least the best half he's had in a Blaugrana shirt in quite some time, and maybe ever. In front of him was Malcom. Not only does he get the goal in the second half, and a wonderful finish as well, he knew he had to finish it with power after Real Madrid were able to clear it off the line, and it was a disjointed play, a lot going on, and Malcom just kept his composure, slotted home in the 57th minute for that goal. That's what makes it 1-1. Now, the problems that Barcelona really had in this match bookended the match, where in the first 10 minutes they were on the back foot, they conceded to Lucas Vazquez, and then in the last 10 minutes, when Bale was, if he was in form at all, I think Barcelona would have been in a little more trouble. But that said, Barcelona in the middle 70 minutes had so much of possession, had so much of the chances, and were, I'd say, the better team for so much of it. Where at halftime, I was believing that with the space that Real Madrid were affording Barcelona, Messi was just going to devour that space completely. And the issues that persisted for Barca in this game, coming on Real Madrid press and why Madrid were dangerous when they were, it seemed to me, and I'd love to hear some feedback on this, it seems to me that between Artur, Busquets, and Rakitic in that first half, whoever was the deepest of the three, when they got it alone basically on an island, that was the activation for Modric and then one of the wingers to come in and try to double team and press in that manner. And I think that's unfortunately where Rakitic was second best today, where normally in a Clasico, Rakitic historically, much like Sergio Roberto, who didn't feature in this match, does raise his level and get up to the match, but Rakitic just didn't seem to have it today, and that's okay. You can't have it every day because your teammates, again, like Semedo and Malcom, should be there to rise up to the challenge and get there as well. And Artur, who basically covered for Rakitic in a sense of controlling the ball and dealing with that pressure as the half wore on, the first half, Artur was picking up the ball much deeper and dealing with that pressure and doing a really, really good job in that one-on-one battle with Modric, who was basically one-on-one marking Artur at a time and not allowing him to get the space to move forward. But as Artur was getting into the game, Rakitic continued to have the struggles of where he needed to be and where that space should be to counter against the press that Real Madrid was activating once he got the ball. And again, it usually is Rakitic who's the farthest back in that three. Today, Busquets was a little bit farther forward. And in that first half, Busquets not his best either. But luckily, it 1-0. It could have been even worse than that if not for Piqué, who I don't want to hear any detractors today. Piqué was phenomenal. I mean, if you start with a 9 out of 10 score for Semedo, you give probably an 8 or 9 to Malcom, and then Piqué, I think, was the third best on the field along with Artur in that match. These are the four guys that you really want to stand out. Suarez really didn't find the game until his buddy Messi came on the field, and once Messi did come on in that second half, Real Madrid's tactics changed. I don't know if it's that they were going for the draw or they were trying to use Bale's speed when he came on as a substitute and just to counter, and it became a much more traditional El Clasico as we've seen in the last few matches between the two sides, and Solari just opting to try to use the speed, as we mentioned, of Bale to try to get out of that box that Real Madrid are finding themselves in, as they really did have to honor Messi in that space. Now, Aleñá, people are going to remember this match as a match that I think it looked like he had a lot of nerves, and he was trying to find the game. Unfortunately, he found himself in the wrong spot in a few occasions where he was just slow to a ball, but you could tell that this game was something that meant a lot to him, and I think those nerves, I would expect to see him with 2 more El Clasicos in the next month, expect to see him again and to have a much more assured performance. Don't lose faith in Aleñá, of course. He is still not only a quality player, but a very, very smart player who knows how to play well particularly with the Messis and the Arturs of the world. He just has to figure out exactly where he needed to be when he came on for Malcolm. Playing more on the wing than he was in the center midfield. That's also another note. And now, we talked about Artur, we've talked about PK. Lenglet, unfortunately, is not going to cover himself in glory because of that goal, but he had a pretty good secondary center back performance next to PK. Ter Stegen, not much he could do on the goal at all, and other than that, very assured in possession. And Alba was having some trouble on that left side. The right back, Carvajal, and we know Danny Carvajal very, very well. Him and Alba know each other. And Lucas Vazquez, another note should be that he is known more as a defensive winger, and he was on in that first half. Yes, he gets a goal for consolation, so I think neutral medias will say that he was the man of the match, but to try to defend Alba was the whole point. Shut down that left side, and Coutinho, not a bad performance, but another invisible performance as well, and not combining well with Alba. That is certainly a problem, Coutinho and Alba, and that connection that you basically trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's just not working with those two, and another evidence of that today. And, we've basically gone through everybody. Arturo Vidal comes on in that second half to add some bite, and that's where the game, with the game nearing 90 minutes, legs are starting to get tired, so tackles are a little more rash, and he was a right substitution to add the bite in that moment. And, the unfortunate thing, along with the bite of Suarez and Vidal and, your heavy hitters in that manner, unfortunately, Suarez's lack of speed in that first half and even in the second half were again evident and quite frustrating today, because there were a lot of balls that you'd think maybe younger legs would have gotten to. But there's always that moment with Suarez that we see. Karim Benzema has gone through his bad time. Now he's the same age as Suarez. They're both post 30, and Benzema, who's finding his form. Suarez, it's not that he's not in form at the moment, but Suarez can knock one in and have a moment of brilliance at any moment. Unfortunately, it seems like those moments are more and more tied to his best friend Messi than they are that he can individually do with Malcolm or Coutinho and Artur and Rakitic and Busquets in the midfield. It just wasn't spacing, or it just wasn't the right game for Suarez in that first half, but again, much better in the second half from him. I think Valverde basically played this game exactly how people would have wanted or would have seen this game to go. The only option he probably would have had to start the match would have been Sergi Roberto instead of Malcolm at right wing, but the proof is in the pudding that he got this right, that it was Malcolm's job to start this match, that it was a match that tactically was going to fit Malcolm much better than Roberto, and it did. And Roberto, a guy that has not been at his best either in recent weeks, Semedo coming in at right back was also the right decision for Valverde. And leaving Messi on the bench, again, probably smarter. That's what everyone said they wanted, rest him, and they let him on for the last 30 minutes, so not to try to affect his fitness. They said he was 100%, and while he wasn't able to impact the match in the way that Kool-Aid would have wanted, I still think they did the right thing for Messi in the long run. And then putting on Vidal for Rakitic and Alenya coming on after Malcolm took a late knock were all the right choices for Valverde. So I think he deserves very, very, very little blame for what is a 1-1 result, where in a sense it's a loss because you are down an away goal now. But if you expect that in that second leg, Messi will not play all 90 minutes, I think you're absolutely crazy, because we're going to see Messi for 90 minutes. And as I said at halftime, I still have confidence that this Barcelona side, their top level is better than Real Madrid's top level. So I don't want to bring other competitions in. This is just about the Copa del Rey. But you're seeing on the field why Barcelona have a shot at La Liga in a way that Real Madrid don't at the moment. And I would also say that unless Real Madrid can find their own path to the Champions League final, Barcelona has to just take care of business against the teams that they face, and that if Barcelona just continue to stay the course, Real Madrid will not even be in that final, and Barcelona will be the team there. They are, again, that good. They are that complete a side. I wouldn't worry too much. I'm excited for the next month because, again, that's more and more matches, and you're scared about fitness. We're scared about resting players and rotation. But again, this is a quality side with depth, and I'm excited to see those fringe players like Malcolm step up in these big opportunities. So Kool-Aid, it was 1-1 after that one. Well, this is probably going to be one that goes public. So I want to make sure that if you're listening to this not as a Patreon, go over to our Patreon page. This is what we do. These are the quick take match reviews after every match. The only way to get them is to either give $1, $3, whatever it may be, whatever can help keep the lights on for the podcast, the YouTube channel, and everything we do. The Patrons are the thing that really keep it all going on. So not only do I want to say thank you to my Patrons listening to this, but if, again, you're part of the general public, you can help us out and get more of this on patreon.com. All right, Kool-Aids, Forza Barca.